Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday or Tuesday, depending on where you're tuning in from.
Or Wednesday, because today is Wednesday.
Oh, today's Wednesday, so it could be Thursday. You're right. I was thinking it was Monday.
You are way behind. I think
Been a
you've been
long week.
indoors too long, haven't you? You're losing track of the days of the week.
It is. Well, welcome everyone to Unshackle Your Voice. Whether you're with us live or on recording, we're really happy you're with us. I'm Candace May, and this is Mary Denise. We're your guides to reframing your life and digging the gold from your past and creating the dreams of your future. So welcome again to Unshackle Your Voice. Why? So you can be seen and heard with confidence. I'm Candace May, owner of Candace May Training and Services. We do virtual training, consulting, and performance coaching and operational analysis for changing times. We focus on communication, collaboration, coaching, building workforce trust and safety in the workplace, anti-bullying, leadership, and operational analysis.
And I'm Mary Denise, founder of Mitchell Leadership Services and Consulting, which is a boutique woman-owned consulting and coaching firm in the Phoenix area. And I work with clients in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. And my company is all about transformation, leadership, and results. And one of the things that I primarily help people do is I help them take their next steps after workplace bullying and discrimination, because for me, I believe that all people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And they have a right to showcase their talents and their gifts while they're at work. And they have a right to contribute to their environment and work and live without fear or, working in a hostile work environment. And what brings Candace May and I together, which is really cool, is that we both have shared interest as certified speakers, trainers, and coaches with the John Maxwell leadership team. We're also empowered mentoring life guides, which basically means that we are licensed to teach some of their programs, and we're certified DISC human behavior consultants. And so one of the things that I'm going to set up the stage for what you can expect. And I printed the wrong document, so hold on, let me grab that little piece of paper. How this is going to work. So we only have about 30 to 40 minutes with you, and we plan to give you everything that we have. And we're going to give you some ideas that you can implement into your own life so that you can make the changes on your thoughts and the direction that you want your life to go in. And if you want to go deeper into the conversation, please send Candace and I a message, and we will get with you.
Absolutely. Definitely. So our thoughts really control our behavior. We've talked about that in the past, right? What you think comes out in your behavior, whether you want it to or not. That's why they say what's in your heart is what's really revealed. But have you ever thought that maybe you're more than your thoughts and you're more than your behavior? See, I was talking a couple weeks ago about character and what it means to be a safe person, and we've discussed in detail different behaviors that can make people unsafe. And we've described behaviors that are healthy and speak life into others. So what if you've been listening every week and you've been saying, yeah, that all sounds really good, and I'm so caught up in life and I'm running ragged, I'm trying to do everything done for myself and my kids and my family and my work and my employer and community, and there's really no more time. So like, how do I do this? Well, we want to talk about just that. We want to talk about how you can quiet your mind and how you can reprogram your mind. I had mentioned to my daughter, she's 23, a few months back, that you're more than your behavior, right? And she said, what do you mean you're more than your behavior? I said, well, she goes, doesn't your behavior define you? I mean, that's who you are, that's it. And I said, well, your behavior may define you as to what people think of by your behavior, but you have worth much deeper than your behavior, and you can control your behavior by your thoughts. So, we all have this conversation that runs in our head. You probably have one going in your head right now. And I just want to know, do you ever stop and think about that conversation that's going on in your head? Because many people think those very conversations, those circular thoughts that are happening, is who they are, period. That's it. So this is my thoughts and this is who I am. But I'm going to tell you that they're not just you. Those thoughts are not you. You can separate yourself from those thoughts, and you can actually observe those thoughts. And that alone tells you that you're not your thoughts. Because if you couldn't stand out as a third person looking at your thoughts, that means you're not those thoughts. And really, if you think about those thoughts and what they are and where they came from, you can probably track them back down to something someone said to you at a very early age, and it became part of your belief system, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny that you say that, because I kind of had the same kind of conversation with my 26-year-old daughter, when we were talking about behaviors and thoughts, and whatever it is that you say, it comes to fruition, right? And so I like to call that, when we're being negative about ourselves, right? When we're saying, I'm not good enough, I'm never gonna, get that job that I want, I'm never gonna be able to fly a plane, or whatever it is. I'm like, for me, in my case, I always say, God, you're so big, like you need to lose some weight. You're so fat, you're so this, you're so that. And my grandchildren, they like to point out that Nana has a lot of moles, and I have to tell them that it's because I'm getting old, I'm aging. So things are sprouting.
Those are beauty marks.
They're beauty marks. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. And so what I call those thoughts are the bully between my ears, right? And so you have to tell that bully between your ears to get out, because there's no place for it. And those thoughts, they come from the way that you're raised, right? They come from your environment. The things that I was told by my adopted mother, and I've shared some things before, but the biggest one was that I was too black, and that my Oreo cookie children were going to end up on welfare and possibly in jail.
I'm so sorry. That's a horrible thing to say to somebody.
Yep. That's what I grew up hearing. So, but I've learned how to kick the bully between my ears out the way.
But for a long time, having grown up hearing that, you probably had those thoughts running through your head from time to time, and it was a real struggle, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So our brain creates circuits and patterns through repetition. So when we have these repetitive thoughts, we create these circuits in our brain, and they're groups. And so things become automatic. Our thoughts and our behaviors, they kick in automatically with this. So just like in school, when you were learning how to write, they would have you write the sentence 5 times or 10 times, because it was repetition. They knew if you practice repetition, it would stick with you longer. And so that's how you learn to write, right? Repetition. So you can see that by hearing the things that were said to you repeatedly, it created circuits in your brain so that they were just automatically playing in your head. So here's the good news, though. Every time you learn something new, you create new connections.
Absolutely. It's our subconscious, right? This what lies in our subconscious is how we see ourselves, how we think others see us. And when we think about how we think other people think about us, we get more involved in those negative thoughts. We start looking at our identity. We start looking at how we value ourselves, and all of this, every bit of this is stored in the subconscious. And if you've never studied the brain and the mind, oh my goodness, you should study it. Like my eyes have been wide open, and it's like, wow, what I say, what I speak and into the environment, into the universe, it does come back. And what do we see in the Bible, Candace, about that? It's in the Bible about what you
speak life into other people. Yes. So I really thought about that a lot. Speaking life, what does that look like? And you get these automatic behaviors or responses, and somebody's really treating you badly, and you're such a bitch. Would you just knock it off? Well, you're telling them and reinforcing in their brain that they're a bitch, and it's really hard. And if you spend a lot of time reprogramming your brain, and you get around somebody who's telling you horrible things about yourself, like an old tape, it just is like, oh, this is like so obvious. You're like, I have to get away from this. I can't tolerate it, And so speaking life, maybe we say, oh, well, I was just telling her how she's behaving. Well, maybe you should say, I expect better from you. I know you can do better than that. Or if you're going to speak to me that way, I need you not to be here right now, right? So those are ways to avoid calling people names, thinking that you're just calling them a behavior, right? Because that's really speaking death versus speaking life into somebody. But if you're serious about changing your thoughts and changing your behavior and improving your self-esteem and building a stronger character so that you can be a safe person to other people and even to yourself, I suggest you spend time daily thinking about your ideal self and whom you want to be. There's a couple of different things we're going to talk about here and ways that that can be done. So you can practice rehearsing your thoughts and your behavior in your mind, like thinking about your ideal self and how you would respond, how your ideal self would respond as it went about your day. Think of it like a day in the life of Candace May, and the ideal Candace May, and how I want to be greeted, and how I want to be speaking on a stage, and how the audience will engage me, and how I want to be working with employers to develop stronger leaders, and all of I want to be with my family and the interactions I want to have there, and with a loved one and spouse and partner. If I go into detail of how that looks like, I'm becoming that person in my thoughts. I'm not just talking about little quick thoughts here and there. I'm talking about actually spending time, 30 minutes, up to 2 hours maybe. If you're having a really bad day, you wake up and your mind goes immediately to your phone and you pick up the social media and all of a sudden you go into negative thoughts and that automatic thought patterns kick in. So I'm suggesting instead of picking up that phone first thing in the morning and looking at your social media, to get up and immediately go into some quiet meditation time and just try to quiet your mind and really go inside, because it is so refreshing. It just quiets your mind down and you can just go into like nothingness and let your mind just kind of reset. And you can sometimes actually spend some time thinking about this vision that you have of your ideal self, and spend some time just meditating on that. And that creates memories of the future. Does that sound funny to you? You think of memories or something that happened in the past, but your mind doesn't really know the difference between reality of what's happening right now, or if you think back in the future, you take your mind back there and you revamp and relive an experience you had. All of those memories come flooding in as if you were in that moment, right? So let's not go back into the past or any of those old negative things unless you're reminiscing about something positive. But go into the future and picture what you want your life to be and your ideal self. And you have such a vivid imagination of what you're wearing, what the weather's like, who you're with, the sounds of laughter, the rippling sounds of the water, the rustling of the trees, whatever it might be, with a lot of vivid imagery. And you can really create those memories as if you were really there. And you know what? One Tuesday, you may be walking down the street and all of a sudden you have that deja vu of a memory from your future that you're living out. And you're like, wow, this feels comfortable and familiar with me, which is really key, right?
Absolutely.
Because what happens when you think about your past and why you get drawn into old relationships?
You brought up something really interesting just a minute ago, and it made me think of an experience that I had. You know how when you wake up in the morning and you wake up and you're rushing because your alarm clock, you hit snooze one too many times. And so now what are you doing? You're frantically trying to get dressed, get showered, get dressed, get what you need, get to work. When you start your day in that rushed moment, that rushed environment, your entire day is rushed. Like all day long, you feel like you are chasing yourself. But when you take that time to do the quiet thought, the quiet meditation, you have a better day. And one of the things that I had started about 2 years ago when I was first introduced to it was writing I am statements. When you do these I am statements, it's about building your self-image. I mean, I will tell you, my self-image increased exponentially. My confidence increased. I no longer said, gosh, you're just so fat, you're never gonna, get to do that. Now I'm like, so what? I'm good. I'm healthy, I'm big, I'm healthy, I'm beautiful, and I'm just gonna keep on pushing with life. And I remember when I was told, come up with 100 words to describe yourself.
100 I am statements, right? Okay, that's everyone's homework. Come up with 100 I am statements. They have to be positive.
Yep. I just laugh because I'm like, really? What? Like, I am what? I'm scared? No, not that kind. I am beautiful. You say those, they're like, I call them the pat words. I am beautiful. I am skinny. I am great. I am good. And it's like, instead it should be, I am worthy.
Yeah.
I am love. I am loved. When you start thinking it from that perspective, I am creating the future that I want. I am doing XYZ. Everything starts to come into play, and your future, that's where that future self that Candace May was just talking about comes from, starting with those I am statements.
Yeah. I was introduced to I am statements way back in the 90s when I was listening to Zig Ziglar and Stephen Covey. I was really big into that at the time. And I still am. I still pay attention to all of those things. And I think all of the mentors I have in my life talk about the power of the I am statement, right? So some of the examples that I have right now, just a few more examples for all of you listening, is I am a money magnet and attract ongoing financial increase. I am the perfect expression of love. I am the perfect expression of play, power, and pleasure. I am safe to feel my feelings. Now that's a big one, because how many times do you not feel safe in your feelings? Learning to feel safe and beautiful. For all of you out there who don't feel beautiful, maybe someone really criticized you, as Mary and I have shared with us, right? I am beautiful. Learn to live with that feeling and like yourself. Don't hide from the mirrors. So going back to the concept of meditation, so the I am statements is one way. Thinking of that meditation of your imagery of the future is one way, and then just quieting your mind, literally quieting your mind is extremely powerful process. So there's three things we're talking about today. We're all so busy running around in life, and we can't sit still long enough to quiet our mind and to hear nothing or to hear God, because we're just running too much. So that's why we get stuck with this circular thoughts running through our heads. Our thoughts are created in our brain's pattern, and we need to rewrite those patterns if we want to change the way we're thinking and change our behavior. I really like listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza on YouTube, and he refers to the frontal lobe of the brain as the orchestra leader for the connections to the rest of the brain. And he's done a lot of scientific research over the years to have evidence of how the brain functions. And he says the frontal lobe quiets down the association centers, the thinking centers. It quiets down the motor centers. It quiets down the emotional centers. And the only real thing that is real is thought, right? So thought is the essential energy that's out there. So when we capture the thought in the frontal lobe, the rest of the mind will pattern and make circuits to pattern that thought. And then that's reflected as a blueprint of whatever we're focusing on. So it's like a filter. How we see things changes, right? When we change how we see things, change how we see things differently, it changes. So when we make new circuits, it opens us up to see things differently, to see new opportunities and new possibilities around us. Do you think this is possible?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm reminded of two situations. One was when I was working on my bachelor's degree, criminal justice actually, and I was in a social work class testing that out. Yeah, that didn't work out so well. But anyways, the professor said, a child sees the world as that of his own. And when the professor said that, I thought, that's interesting. Still clueless, because I was clueless Mary back then. It wasn't until I started working with children that were in abusive situations that it popped in my head one day. I remembered what she said, and I realized what she meant. And what she meant is that when a child's world is that of his own, right? Whatever he sees happening in his home, whatever experiences, whatever lifestyle, whatever customs, all of it goes into it. They think that everybody else is like that. And then they leave the house one day to go visit somebody else, and they find that there's different customs and lifestyles and things of that nature. And then another thing that cracks me up. So, we've all been stuck, right? We've all been stuck with this COVID-19 and various degrees of, don't leave the house, stay in the house. And, so some days I get bored and I don't want to work on my business. Like, I just want to vegetate. And I came across Wife Swap of all the shows in the world. So I started watching it. I'm like, oh my God, these people just want to see if the grass is greener on the other side. And they literally, these women, they swap with each other and they take over each other's lives, each other's kids, each other's work, and everything else. And the lessons that they learned, though, at the end were really interesting because they came back more appreciative of their situation, of their family. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. But I could never, I don't have the guts to do something like that. Plus, I'm not married, so it don't matter.
You have no one to swap with. It is interesting, though, because we get stuck in our environment. We get stuck in what is normal to us. And that's just the way we see things. And we can't see any other way. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we're thrust into a new environment. We can see things that we couldn't see before. And then when we go back into our old environment, we're different. Our paradigm has shifted and we see things differently. So we act differently then and can embrace change differently. So let's talk about that. And do you think the person who thinks about being a victim every day gets really good at it? Do you think they can just get up and that becomes their thought process automatically? I'm a victim. The world is out to get me. And that's just the way it is. They don't have any other perspective.
You asking that question reminds me of the time when I was working as a certified victims advocate. And one of the biggest things that these individuals had in common was the fact that they believed they deserved the treatment that they were getting.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, and a lot of it may have had to do it, and I'm going with the woman's perspective because those were the majority of my clients were the women. So when I say this, it's from that perspective. But a lot of the women, if they grew up in a home where they watched their mother getting spit on, punched, hit, hair pulled, called out of their name, degraded, whatever, then these young ladies, when they grew up, they attracted the same type of man, thereby causing that cycle to perpetuate itself. So sad, just really sad.
Yeah, there's a book it made me think of. Dorothy Law Nolte, she wrote this poem called Children Learn What They Live back in the 50s. And her goal was to point out that values are caught more than they're taught. Yep. So when we're talking about the kids seeing this, thinking it's normal, that's just becomes what's normal to them. They caught it. They caught it from observing it. So even if you told them differently, what people do, what people see more than what they hear.
What was it that you said? Because that was a really good nugget, and I want to write it down for future reference. Something about the values are caught.
They're caught. C-A-U. Yeah. Caught, not taught. Yeah.
And who said that?
Actually, John Maxwell says that.
You know what? It sounds familiar. It does sound familiar. Okay.
I think I've heard it. He quotes a lot of other people, so it may have come from someone prior to that. Yeah, but
okay. I really like that. Values are caught, not taught. I like that.
I've been saying it so long. I don't even. It's just my own at this point. I don't even think about who originally said it. But this poem my mom had in our house, "Children Learn What They Live," and I just love it. Like, if children live with encouragement, they learn confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. How many people walk around feeling guilty and they don't even know they're feeling guilty? It's just such a natural, ingrained feeling. If children live with tolerance, they learn patience. If children learn with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children learn with acceptance, they learn to love. Such a powerful concept there.
Beautiful.
So can you agree, if you made new circuits in your brain, that you would see things differently? You would see new opportunities, new things in your reality because you're now wired to see them differently?
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as a paradigm shift, and it really does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dispenza says there's really only two ways that we make new circuits in the brain, and one is through knowledge or philosophy. When we learn new information, we make new correct connections. But the other is through experience, and as we create an experience, we give the brain the feedback with a new emotion. That new emotion will help us remember the experience, because when you have something that happens to you, we snap. Our brain takes a snapshot of that moment in time. That's how a memory is created. And usually there's high emotion tied to it, either really happy, really sad, whatever. That emotion triggers and snaps it. So all of your five senses get triggered: the smell, the sights, the sound, the taste, the textures of things. And that's why you can be triggered later in life by a certain smell or maybe a certain taste of something. It will bring back these memories in your brain of something that happened around it, that familiar sight or smell. And you don't even maybe remember what it is. You just know you have a really strong reaction. So when you have a really strong reaction to something, it's a good time to say, what's happening here, before you knee jerk into reaction on it. Like, my whole body is tensing up over this smell. Like, what is happening? Really powerful.
I agree. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say that's what makes humans more unique than animals, because animals have a very slow evolution period. They have to endure a lot of trial and change over sometimes thousands of years of evolution before they adapt, so they say. Which humans, however, we can change quickly because of the size of our frontal lobe that we have that the animals don't. We can create these memories of the future and this ideal self that we have. We can change ourselves within a year or within a week, or maybe there's something big that happens even within a day. We can really become a different person in a day if we really are dedicated and focused. We evolve ourselves and we become someone new without trial and error that the animals have to go through. So the great news that we're saying here today is you can shape who you want to be. You have the power to rewire your brain.
Absolutely. And a lot of people think that it's hard. I know I did. When I first moved into this world of, I need to change the way I see myself, the way I think, I thought this is going to be really hard, but it's not. And if you can watch Netflix all day long, find a series and just binge watch it until you watch all 20 series of whatever it is that you're watching, you can take that time to recalibrate your brain. They say that, it's a matter of what you want in life. It's what you want out of life. It's why you want what you want. And it's important that the implementation begin there. And some of the things that you can do is you can, oh man, where'd I put it? I had a journal. You can journal, you can read a book, and here's one that I'm reading right now, How Successful People Think, because I want to learn how to think like the successful people, right? Want to rewire my brain and move it into something different. We're actually doing a study on that. That's why I was writing really quick. But start by writing that I am statement. It takes 21 days to make a habit. That's it, 21 days to make a habit. And so for 21 days, you can write an I am statement, you're going to be way ahead of the game. And Wayne Dyer said it best. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And that to me is a very powerful statement.
Yeah, you're right. So I want to ask everybody with us today and watching the recording, whom are you going to rehearse as your ideal self every morning?
Beautiful.
Are you willing to rehearse? Are you willing to release your greatest idea and activate those circuits in your brain? As you do, you can create the platform for whom you will become. Ponder that. Think about that. This is why God calls us to meditate on his word and spend time with him, because as we quiet our brains, this is the transition that happens. Our mind gets renewed.
Yes, it does. Wow, Candace May, thank you. Thank you for sharing some of that wonderful knowledge that you shared with us tonight. And I want to thank our audience for joining us, whether they're live or watching the recording. Please let us know what your biggest aha moment was, okay? What was your biggest takeaway from listening to us today? And as always, let us know what you want us to talk about, because this is not about us. This is about you. And we want to know, what problem can we solve for you? Until next time, unshackle your voice to be seen and heard with confidence.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week and work on your I am statements. We believe in you and all you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. Bye, Mary Denise.
Bye.